the vast emptiness of Arizona, where the sun scorches the earth like a branding iron, the wind whispered secrets through the jagged mountains. Dust danced in lazy spirals, rising from the crocked ground like forgotten ghosts. Elias Thorne rode alone, his solitary silhouette stark against an endless horizon. He had chosen this frontier years earlier, fleeing the suffocating cities of the East where men's voices rang hollow. Here, in the silence, he found something close to peace, a rough-hewn cabin at the foot of the mountains, a shallow well that barely gave water, and days spent watching the sky bleed from blue to crimson at dusk. He was not a man of many words. His calloused hands spoke for him, shaped by the solitary labor of hunting and coaxing life from reluctant soil. No one knew him in Tombstone, the town a few miles distant, and he preferred it that way. The world of sheriffs and gunmen was a distant river whose turbulent waters he avoided. One twilight, as the sun sank behind the hills and left the air cool and heavy with long shadows, Elias stopped his horse beside the dry creek that wound across his land. He dismounted to fill his canteen, the scant water dripping like a broken clock. Then he heard it. Not a loud sound, but a low moan, as if the wind had caught in a ravine. His eyes, trained by years of watchful solitude, swept the terrain. There, among the rocks, lay a figure, an Apache man, perhaps, his skin marked by old scars and a fresh wound in the shoulder where blood had begun to cake with dust. His dark, piercing eyes fixed on Elias without blinking, as though weighing him before a single word passed between them. The stranger did not beg for help. He simply watched, chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Elias hesitated. The frontier was a place of fragile alliances and deep enmities. Apaches were seen as dangerous shadows by the settlers of Tombstone, and aiding one could brand a man a traitor. Yet this man was unarmed, his knife lying fallen beside him, and the look in his eyes held not threat, but quiet vulnerability. Elias thought of his own isolation. He had come here to escape the judgment of men, but now he felt unseen eyes upon him, perhaps the spirits of the mountains, or simply the weight of his own conscience. With a sigh that echoed in the stillness, he approached, tore a strip from his shirt, and pressed it to the wound. "Drink," he murmured, offering the canteen. The Apache accepted, his trembling fingers brushing Elias's for an instant, a contact that carried the weight of colliding worlds. He spoke no words, only nodded. Elias helped him onto his own horse and led him to the cabin. There, in the darkness, he cleaned the wound with herbs gathered from the slopes, and the man slept, his breathing a steady rhythm against the low crackle of the fire. That night, Elias sat outside, the star-pierced sky above like a tattered blanket. He felt, or imagined, eyes in the shadows of the hills. The wind carried distant hoofbeats, perhaps hunters or scouts, but nothing drew near. The Apache, whose name was Nantan, awoke at dawn. With slow gestures, he explained in broken English that he had fled in ambush. Cowboys from Tombstone, the Clantons, had attacked him, accusing him of cattle theft he denied. "They take land," Nantan said, eyes fixed on the horizon. "I see truth." Elias asked no more. He offered hard bread and salted meat, a simple act of humanity in a world of scarcity. Nantan left at noon, riding a horse Elias gave him, not out of generosity, but because turning away now would be like denying himself. As the man vanished into the mountains, Elias felt a shiver, as though greater forces were testing him, weighing his soul against the vastness. The following days passed in watchful silence. Elias worked his land, turning the parched soil with a worn hoe, but his mind wandered. He heard whispers in the wind, saw shadows that might have been watching eyes. Tombstone buzzed with rumors. The Earps, Wyatt and his brothers, lawmen of the town, hunted the Clantons for robbery and violence. Yet Elias, from fleeting glances in town, knew the Clantons were not pure monsters. They were frontiermen, defending ranches against speculators and laws that favored the wealthy. Their ambiguity made them dangerous. neither heroes nor villains, only survivors in a game where morality bent like grass in the wind. Then the tension began to rise. A week after Nantan's departure, Elias rode into Tombstone for supplies. The town was a hive of dust and voices, saloons spilling hoarse laughter, horses tied to splintered posts. He bought flour and salt, keeping his head down, but as he left the store, a man stepped into his path. Ike Clanton, eyes narrowed beneath a stained hat, flanked by two armed companions. "You seen an Indian, wounded?" Ike asked, voice low and thick with suspicion. Elias felt the weight of those stares, not only from the cowboys, but as though the mountains themselves watched, judging. A lie would mean safety, truth a questionable honor. He chose partial truth. "I saw a wounded man. I helped him. He left." Ike studied him for a long moment, sunlight glinting off the pistols at his hips. "You helped a thief," he growled, but he did not draw. His men muttered. Ike raised a hand. "For now, go. But remember, choices come back." Elias mounted and rode out, heart pounding in a quiet rhythm of fear, feeling eyes on his back until the hills swallowed him. The waiting grew heavier, like a storm gathering. Elias watched distant dust clouds raised by riders, heard night howls that might have been wolves or signals. He felt tested, as though fate were pushing him toward an abyss. Then came the revelation. One night, a messenger from Tombstone arrived at his cabin, a thin boy, breathless. "The Earps want you," he said. "They say you saw the Indian the Clantons killed over stolen cattle. But the Indian told the truth before he died. The Clantons didn't steal. It was one of the Earps men who planted the evidence to take land." Elias went still. His first choice, helping Nantan, had set this in motion. The truth Nantan had confided about corruption among the Earps now rang like a curse. If he testified, he would betray the Clantons who had spared him. If he lied, he would aid injustice, betraying his own honor. The tension stretched on in long silences. Elias waited, watching the horizon, fear a constant, contained companion like held breath. He rode the mountains, sensing unseen watchers, perhaps Apaches, perhaps spirits. One afternoon, the large group came. A dozen Clanton cowboys, heavily armed, ringing his cabin like wolves. Ike dismounted, face a mask of controlled fury. "You going to testify against us?" he asked, hand resting on his holster. Elias met their eyes, wind howling between them. They could have ended him there, bullets tearing the silence. But Ike paused, remembering. "You helped the Indian. He was our enemy, but you saw humanity. For that, I don't shoot today." The men grumbled, yet obeyed, riding away like shadows that melted into the dust, leaving Elias alive because of that earlier moral choice. The final moral confrontation came at the OK Corral, not in gunfire, but in decision. Tombstone throbbed with tension. The Earps and Doc Holliday faced the Clantons in a dusty alley, voices ringing with accusations. Elias was called as an impromptu witness before the silent crowd. Wyatt Earp stared at him, eyes cold as steel. "Speak the truth. Did the Indians steal?" Doc Holliday, coughing beside him, watched with a ghostly half-smile. The Clantons waited on the other side. Elias felt the weight. Siding with the Earps meant safety, standing in town. Betraying the Clantons meant honor. But the truth was ambiguous. The Earps sought law, yet tainted. The Clantons sought freedom, yet violent. He chose. The Indian did not steal, it was framed. The words fell, irreversible, hanging in the still air. No shots rang out in that moment. The revelation froze everything, delaying the inevitable duel but marking Elias forever. In the end, Elias returned to the mountains, silence his only companion. A fragile peace settled, Tombstone quieted for a time, the exposed corruption forcing a shaky truce. But the cost was steep. He was now a marked man, whispered about as a traitor by some, reluctant hero by others. Eternal isolation, a scar on the soul, and the shadow of future retribution. He sat by his small fire, the wind carrying distant echoes, reflecting on choices that shape destinies beneath eyes that never cease to judge. If this legend stirred something in you, perhaps another waits in the shadows of the frontier, ready to be told. If you enjoyed this story and want to know what Elias's life will be like from now on, leave us a comment.